What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the show. As always, thank you for tuning in. I have an article here from the Gateway Pundit, and it's got a couple things I want to go through. Some things that should be concerning to people that actually care about democracy and actually care how we perform and conduct our elections. For people out there that are actually concerned about how we elect our leaders and not select them, I think this is an important video for people to watch because it exposes Kamala Harris. It exposes this entire corrupt process that we're supposed to just accept as legit. And it's everything but legit. In fact, it's so illegitimate, it should terrify people. Because this is how oligarchs are run. We've been saying this for a long, long time. The Democrat Party is not a party. It is an oligarchy. So when these people talk about, Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, Donald Trump is a threat to this, what they mean to say is Donald Trump is a threat to their oligarchy. This oligarchy where a handful of people in the smoke-filled back rooms that have selected Kamala Harris to run for president. And she is here on this debate stage. She's at this town hall. She is running in this election without one vote, one single vote from the American people. Not one person voted for Kamala Harris. She was selected by the oligarchy. And they want us to pretend like this actually didn't happen, that this is normal. This is not normal. This is actually how democracies get destroyed, is when you legitimize stuff like this. And so I want to go through this article. This came out today. Gateway Pundit, Christina Layla, one of my all-time favorite investigative journalists, says, watch Univision panic when they realized they showed Kamala Harris's teleprompter live on air during town hall. The reason why they're panicking is because town halls are not supposed to be scripted. They're not supposed to be choreographed. They're supposed to be a sit-down with the American people, concerned voters, asking the candidate questions so that they can get answers and find out who she is. Why do you have a freaking teleprompter there? It points to the fact that we've been pointing out on the show this entire time. This is a campaign of lies and deception by a candidate that herself is a deception on the American people. She can't be real with who she is. She's the change candidate, but she's not the change candidate. She is everything and nothing at the same time. It's very bizarre, very, very bizarre what the Democrats have given us in this election. And people are supposed to vote on this. They have two decisions. You either vote for Kamala Harris and legitimize this awful, disgusting process of, handing the keys to the castle without going through the process, without going through the primaries, without nothing. She was chosen. Chosen by whom? That is the question, and this is how dictatorships work. This is how oligarchies work. So Christina Layla goes in, she says, Kamala Harris got caught using a teleprompter during Thursday night's Univision town hall in Las Vegas. Harris pandered to Latina voters by participating in a town hall hosted by Univision. The internal polls for Harris must be horrific. I agree. Of course, Kamala Harris had to use a teleprompter because she has no clue what she's talking about. Univision panicked after they realized they showed Kamala Harris's teleprompter live on air. As soon as the camera panned behind Kamala Harris, the teleprompter went black. But it was too late. Here, check this out.
Victim of crime. Are you a Republican? Are you a Democrat? The only question I ever ask is, are you okay?
There it is.
And sadly, we have seen over the last 2 weeks since Hurricane Helene.
And there it goes. It's very bizarre stuff, man. This trying to deceive and manipulate the American people into legitimizing this process and legitimizing a candidate that should not be legitimized. This is not okay what these people have done to our democratic process. It's just not. So the town hall was a total dumpster fire. One voter told Kamala Harris that he has big concerns about her shoving Biden aside and taking his place as the nominee without earning a single vote. She rambled incoherently in a fake accent about COVID tests and claimed Biden urged her to run for president. Just a rule of thumb for people out there that are, trying to decide on who you should vote for. You probably shouldn't vote for somebody that's faking their accent. That should be a pretty big indicator to people that, maybe this person isn't genuine. Maybe this person isn't who they say they are when they have to change their accent depending on who they're voting for. That, to me, I find one of the most offensive things that a candidate can do, like Hillary Clinton, changing her accent, saying she brings hot sauce in her purse. By the way, is extremely racist, if you ask me. But why? Why are people okay with Kamala Harris going out there, changing her accent depending on who she's talking to? That is weird. It's bizarre. It's deceiving. It is unacceptable. And it should not be accepted by the American people. And if the American people had a choice, they probably wouldn't accept it. But they weren't even given a choice about Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris was selected and shoved onto the American people and shoved onto that stage to the American people with no options. So here's a tweet from the Trump War Room. A voter tells Kamala he has big concerns about her shoving Biden aside and taking his place as the nominee without earning a single vote.
I'm also concerned about the way I feel President Biden was pushed aside.
Oh.
And so close to the elections, I believe these are extraordinary circumstances.
Given how close we are to the election. So, la pregunta, Mario?
And Mario's question?
The question, Mario.
So the question is, how can you clarify this whole process and how you were elected?
Sure. And first of all, thank you for being so candid and allowing me to answer the question. Thank you. President Biden made a decision that I think history will show was probably one of the most courageous that a president could make, which is he decided to put country above his personal interest.
Let's just discuss that for a second. Does anybody actually think Joe Biden made this decision on his own willfully? I don't think so. I want to know what was said to Joe Biden for him to drop out of the race. What did they give in exchange for Kamala Harris's candidacy? Because that's exactly what this was. Nobody actually thinks Joe Biden dropped out on his own. This man was pressured to drop out. He was offered probably favors in exchange. He was probably offered, we won't go after your son. Who knows? But I want to know what that conversation looked like. No one in this country actually thinks Joe Biden willfully dropped out of the race. And I got a theory behind this we may get into in a little bit about Joe Biden possibly taking revenge on the Kamala Harris campaign. It's a crazy theory, but I think Joe Biden is pissed off that he was betrayed like this. I think Joe Biden's pissed off that he was forced out of this race and was forced to give his primary votes and his candidacy to his vice president, to this lady that didn't get one friggin' vote. Anyways, let's get back into this.
And he made that decision. He within that same period of time, supported my candidacy.
Really?
And urged me to run.
Prove
he
it.
and I have been partners for the last 4 years as his vice president to him as the president. And I am honored to have earned the Democratic nomination.
Did she earn the nomination, folks? Because I'm pretty sure after Joe Biden dropped out, Barack Obama said that there was going to be a mini primary, which I thought was actually a good idea. Yes, Joe Biden can't continue to run. Okay, he can't continue to run, but he can somehow continue to run our country, but I digress. So Joe Biden can't continue to run. He drops out. A mini primary would have been an absolute great idea, because then you would have been able to have all these candidates come up, being how Joe Biden ran unencumbered by any other candidate. There was no other candidate challenging Joe Biden. So that right there should be a pretty big red flag for voters out there that are concerned about democracy. Why was there no candidates? Well, because for RFK Jr., they removed him off the ballot and basically sued him, and using lawfare, forced him to run as an independent. And that's the same thing they did to all the other candidates. So Joe Biden ran unencumbered. He ran with no challenges. And then he wins 14 million primary votes and hands everything over to Kamala Harris, who didn't receive one primary vote. This should be concerning for a lot of people, and it should not be legitimized. And for Kamala Harris to come out on stage and say, I earned the nomination, is bizarre. It's a lie. It's deceiving. And it should be, like I said, it should be a red flag to everybody that's concerned about democracy and the way that we conduct our elections. You know, the so-called defenders of democracy are doing everything in their power to destroy our democratic process. I mean, it's so wild and bizarre that more people aren't outraged about this. And the fact that this lady can't give a good answer as to why she was selected and not elected should throw up even more red flags.
I am honored to have the endorsement of people from every walk of life. You will probably find that
every walk of life, really. Like, who are these handful of delegates that gave you the nomination? Because it wasn't the American people. No, it was faceless, nameless, unelected bureaucrats behind closed doors and smoke-filled rooms that said, you know what, we're going to select Kamala Harris. We think she's a good candidate to carry on the torch for Joe Biden and our agenda. Let's give it to Kamala Harris. That's not democracy, folks. That is an oligarchy.
I probably have a bigger coalition of people who couldn't seem to be more different than each other, who have come together around my candidacy. From 200 Republicans who worked with and for both Presidents Bush, John McCain, Mitt Romney, including Liz Cheney, the former Congresswoman, and her father, the former Vice President.
Oh, the warmongers. You can have the warmongers. I don't know how these Democrats come out and take themselves seriously as, you know, the party of anti-war and peace and tolerance. They have become the party of war now. They officially have the Republican Party's biggest warmongers that we have to offer. Liz Cheney and her warmongering father, Dick Cheney. An absolute disgrace to the conservative movement, a disgrace to the Republican Party. So guess what, Democrats? You can have them. We don't want them. And you want to talk about a coalition. I would say a unity coalition would be somebody like RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard joining the MAGA movement. That's a coalition that I can get behind. RFK Jr., a Kennedy, a sane, rational Democrat of old, the old school Kennedy Democrats, and Tulsi Gabbard, who used to be the former vice chair of the DNC. That to me is a coalition. I don't know any of these people that she's talking about other than Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney. Who are the other 198 people behind closed doors? The delegates that so-called, elected you. And the biggest thing of all, the biggest thing I have with this little video right here, I'm not even going to go on because this stuff infuriates me. The lies and deception, this Potemkin campaign that Kamala Harris is giving the American people, this democratic process that the Democratic Party is giving the American people is a disgrace. It is disgusting. It should be rejected wholeheartedly by everybody. They should not legitimize this. I'm sorry Democrats gave you this type of situation. It shouldn't have been like this. It should have went the same way that Barack Obama said it should have went, which is through a mini primary. They had plenty of time to go through a mini primary process, let different candidates come up and plead their case, and see who was actually elected and got votes from the American people. But this process right here, this is disgusting. This flies in the face of our framers of our country. But it's not surprising coming from a party that actually thinks our framers are racist bigots and the Constitution is old and outdated and should be rewritten. So this is what you get. So one voter asked Harris about soaring grocery prices thanks to her failed policies. And this is how that went down.
I used to spend $250 a week in food, and now it goes up to $350.
$200 to over $350 in groceries.
No nada más ha subido la comida, sino
not only do I talk about food, but utilities, clothes, everything is
like
much more
water
expensive.
And energy, and clothes.
Sí, y bueno, pues yo soy de la clase media.
I am middle class, and I work a lot, and just like everybody else in the middle class, we work very hard. You said we're ambitious, but that ambition, sometimes it's really difficult to keep up with because we see life is going up, and we just simply cannot go ahead. We can't move ahead.
Women, and you said we're ambitious, but it's hard to maintain that ambition when conditions are so hard, so challenging.
Yes. Mi pregunta es entonces,
so my question is as follows. What are you going to do to help the middle class so that the cost of living does not destroy us?
The middle class.
Thank you for the question. And your point, listen, I know prices are too high still. You know prices are too high still. And we have to deal with it.
Do these people realize they're talking to the exact person that really is the driving cause behind this inflation, which is Kamala Harris, who made the tie-breaking vote of the Inflation Reduction Act in the Senate. She's the one that got that bill passed. Even though they knew the Congressional Budget Office and all these economists and these experts came out and said, if you pass this, this is going to skyrocket inflation. And she did it anyways. Do people realize that they're asking the arsonist to put out the fire?
How I feel about it. Again, you've heard my story. I come from the working class. I'm never going to forget where I come.
Kamala Harris did not come from the working class. Both of her parents were from Harvard. Her mom was a biological scientist and her father is a Marxist professor. She did not come from the middle class. I'm so sick of hearing this. Kamala Harris was not the middle class. So this is the reason why she keeps having to say this and repeat this, is because people don't believe her. She's not the middle class. You might as well have that's like Donald Trump coming out there and saying, oh, I grew up in the middle class. Has Donald Trump ever said that? Has Donald Trump ever said he's come from humble beginnings and humble means? No. The guy was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, but he's not trying to convince the voters he didn't. That's exactly what Kamala Harris is trying to do.
And part of what we have to do is build what I call an opportunity economy, where people have the opportunity, like you have described, for you to be able to work hard and your 5 daughters have an opportunity to then do what they and what you aspire for them to be able to do without having to worry about just getting by. I want you to be able to get ahead. So here's my plan. It includes what we need to do to bring down the cost of, for example, groceries. One of the issues I'm going to be taking on is price gouging.
Folks, this is so radical. This whole price gouging thing and government price controls on private corporations, it is so dumb. It is not going to fix anything. It's going to make everything worse. The American people have to see this. They have to see this. You don't fix inflation by going after private corporations with government price controls. These people don't get it, man. Kamala Harris is going to be a flipping disaster for this country. And notice how she didn't actually answer the lady's question. It's like, hey, what are you going to do about rising grocery prices? Kamala Harris spits out a few slogans like, I'm from the middle class, and she said 1,000 times. And then she comes out and says, oh, I know how to fix it. Go after the price gougers. The hell does that mean? An opportunity economy? What the hell does that mean? If America, it does not do its due diligence enough to see that Kamala Harris is a selected candidate that was selected by the Democrat oligarchy, and she is going to be a continuation of the 4 years that we have seen, and everything is going to get worse. If the American people can't see that, then they deserve it. I'm sorry. We don't deserve it, but the people that vote for it deserve it. The people that voted for Joe Biden deserve what they got. They do, because they didn't do their due diligence. They didn't see, they didn't listen, they didn't read, they didn't do anything. They just said, I vote for Joe Biden because he's Lunch Bucket Joe. And he's going to bring normalcy back to the White House. He's going to bring normalcy back to the country. That was a lie. He's not. I mean, this is, like I said, it's concerning, man. It's very, very concerning. Here's Kamala Harris on the inflation rate.
We got to bring down prices, but we're still, the last numbers just today, I think it was, inflation is now down to 2.4. So we call it the macroeconomic numbers are looking good, but it still doesn't change the experience you're having at the grocery store, and we still need to deal with that.
This is what her administration is going to look like. This is what the next 4 years, if Kamala Harris is elected, it's what's the next 4 years. She's not going to do press briefings. It's going to be a continuation of the Biden administration. It's going to be constant cover-ups from the media, constant gaslighting, constant, we know what we have to do. We just have to work on it. We need opportunity. Just have hope. Just, we're so joyful here. That's how we're going to get the micro and macroeconomics to better for you to start affording groceries. Does anybody actually think Kamala Harris knows a jack shit about macro or microeconomics? No. Look at this lady. She's clueless. This lady is clueless. Ladies and gentlemen, danger, danger, danger. Kamala Harris is a disaster, and she will be a disaster for this country. You vote for this, you're legitimizing an illegitimate democratic process where you have a candidate that was selected by the Democrat oligarchy, and you would get 4 years of what we've been through the last 4 years, except worse. It's unfortunate that Democrats, this is what you have to deal with. Unlike the Republicans, Donald Trump actually went through the primary process. He got all the votes that he needed to get. The American people elected him, and it wasn't an easy process. You had a lot of DeSantis supporters out there, myself included. You had a lot of battles going on. You had a lot of candidates giving their ideas, fighting on the stage of ideas. You didn't have that with Democrats. You had Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and probably Barack Obama go in there, threaten the sitting president with who knows what, and convinced him to drop out of the race and give his nomination and select Kamala Harris as the candidate. It's so bizarre, man. It's so bizarre that we have to go through this type of process. But what I'm trying to stress to people is if you vote for it, you are legitimizing it. If you legitimize this process, the Democrats will use this process every single election. And the American Democrat voter will never, ever have a say in who their candidate is. And you will have one party out of a two-party system that selects its candidates like a damn oligarchy, like we are in a dictatorship. That is not how this runs. That's not how this works, man. And does anybody actually think Kamala Harris is going to be running the country? Does anybody think Joe Biden's running the country? I find it very difficult to believe that a guy that is too cognitively disabled to stand trial for prosecution for illegally retaining classified documents is somehow cognitively fit enough to run the country, to run the United States of America. So it's obviously that he's not running this country. Who's running this country? We don't know. And it's probably the same people that selected Kamala Harris as a presidential candidate, even though she didn't get one primary vote. This should be concerning to people. This should throw up red flags all over the place. And again, voting for it is only legitimizing it. And you will get what you deserve. You will get what you vote for. The destruction of our democratic process, but only on one side. And it's so fitting to everything that I say all the time about how Democrats they claim to be, the defenders of democracy, and they're so worried about democracy, but yet they're legitimizing a process that destroys democracy. It's so crazy, man. They always say the slogan "country over party." I was taking my daughter over to a friend's house, and one of the houses had a blue flag draped down that said, "country over party." Obviously, this is the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz slogan, "country over party." But do these people not realize that it's the Democrat Party that's actually destroying this country? Opening the borders, destroying our immigration process, destroying our election process, destroying our democratic process by selecting candidates and not going through the primary process, destroying our justice system by weaponizing it to go after political opponents, using the federal agencies to spy on Americans, to spy on a presidential candidate, conducting coups on sitting presidents. That to me, ladies and gentlemen, is destroying America. All right. So I find it very, very, bizarre and very, very, I guess you could say, detached from reality. When you fly a flag that says choose country over party, and yet it's the Democrat Party that's actually destroying the country. That to me is weird. So people are supposed to what? They're supposed to choose the party that's destroying the country and claim that they're putting country over party? It's very, very bizarre, but it is just more evidence of this George Orwell 1984 dystopian nightmare we've been living in the last 4 years, where down is up and up is down, where we are the ones not living in reality, but yet we're the ones that are being censored. If you want to know which side is lying, just figure out which side is trying to censor people. That's how you know you're on the right side. And last I can tell, it's the Democrat Party that is the party of censorship. So listen, folks, you want to choose country over party, then don't vote for the party that's destroying the country. That's the best advice I can give. And one more thing before we get off here. How is it possible? Why can Kamala Harris not answer basic questions? How is it that you can ask this woman, what are you going to do to fix the inflation crisis? What are you going to do to fix the immigration crisis? What are you going to do to fix these things? And all she gets is, I'm from a middle-class family. I'm from humble beginnings. Even though she's not, but that's what she says. But these are not answers to people's concerns. And I think they do this on purpose because they want Kamala Harris to stand for everything and nothing at the same time. And they do that to purposely confuse and mislead the American voter. is because they feel as if the American voter is dumb enough and they could just deceive them for long enough, then they can get elected. Because it's not, because they know that people only read headlines. People do not do their due diligence and read into these people. So they know if they just pump a bunch of fake ads out there with a bunch of fake talking points and slogans, that they can trick the American people into voting for them, kind of just like they did with Biden. But I feel like people had a better excuse to vote for Biden because of the Trump administration and how Democrats created chaos all through that. And then here comes along Joe Biden, says he's, good old lunch bucket Joe, even though he's worth like, tens of millions of dollars, says he's the middle class, even though he's not, says he's cognitively fit to run office, even now we know he's not, and he wasn't back then either. And they did the exact same thing. They lied to the American people and deceived them, saying that Biden was the vote for normalcy, even though everything about this administration has been very abnormal. In fact, destructive, the complete opposite. And they know that the American voter is not going to look into Kamala Harris. And if they could do the same thing they did with Biden, but like I said, I feel for people that voted for Biden because, he seemed like he was going to be a rational, moderate Democrat that was, not going to issue vaccine mandates, that wasn't going to go to war with the fossil fuel industry, that wasn't going to increase inflation with stupid Green New Deal bills. Like, I get why people fell for Joe Biden. But this is right in your face, man. There's no way there's that many dumb Americans left out there. There's no way that there's that many people out there that are so misinformed, that are so intellectually lazy, that they would vote for it again. I just don't see that many American people falling for it again. Because Kamala Harris is the exact same thing. They're trying to run the same strategy. The Biden in the basement strategy, keep Kamala Harris off of hostile interviews, keep Kamala Harris in friendly environments so that nobody asks tough questions. And then when she is asked a tough question by a voter, just give her a couple talking points and slogans to repeat and claim she's from the middle class and not answer the question. Talk about opportunity. Yeah, just say all the stuff that sounds good. And then when you get elected, do the complete opposite. I think the American people are so sick and tired of this process where these people say one thing and do another. It is something, we see it over and over and over again. Joe Biden said one thing, did the opposite. Kamala Harris is saying the same thing and is going to do the opposite. And I think the American people are sick and tired of it, and I just don't think there's enough American people out there that are willing to vote for it again. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you for tuning in. I want you guys to have a good day. Have a great week. God bless you. God bless America, and long live the Republic. You guys have a good one. Bye-bye.